It was heartbreaking, honestly, because, I thought my dad hung the moon. He really was my North Star. And as a kid, you think your parents are always going to be there. And I was terrified of losing him.
I'm Danielle Elliott-Smith, and this is Hope Comes to Visit, where we celebrate conversations about hope, healing, and the power of storytelling. Today's guest is Bellamy Young, actress and powerful advocate for liver disease. Let's take a quick moment to thank the people that support and sponsor the podcast. When life takes an unexpected turn, you deserve someone who will stand beside you. St. Louis attorney Chris Dully offers experienced one-on-one legal defense. Call 314-384-4000 or 314-DUI-HELP, or you can visit dullylawfirm.com. That's DULLE lawfirm.com for a free consultation. Bellamy, thank you so much for spending time with me today. How are you?
I'm happy to be here. So thank you so much for all you do, all the love and hope that you put into the world. I'm glad to share it a little bit this morning, and just grateful to listen to all the other that you put out.
You are so wonderful. I am so excited to connect on your story of hope. And I know that there is a piece of hope that you are now putting out there, but it originates with your own personal story and how you were a caregiver for your dad. So will you tell us a little bit about your dad and about your personal story, and then we can get into some of the beautiful work that you're doing now.
Thank you very much for asking. I grew up in the mountains of Western North Carolina, and my mom was a teacher. My dad was a tax man, an auditor for the state, but he was a good guy, and you didn't dread seeing him like you can, because like you hear the word auditor and you think, oh my goodness. But when he was in his 50s, he was diagnosed with cirrhosis, which was a byproduct of his alcoholism in our case. It isn't at all the case that, liver disease can happen for a variety of reasons, but that was our story. And we very much felt like that diagnosis was our end point. We'd arrived at a very sad destination, and we sort of went home and closed the door and were ashamed and afraid, and just had no idea that we were really just beginning a journey with liver disease. So over the next little bit of time, he started changing in new ways. And, when you live with someone and you're up close all the time, you don't always notice as things change incrementally. But what got us back to the doctor is one day he couldn't find his way home from the place he'd been working for decades. And so we went back to the doctor to say, oh my goodness, now what's happening? What's happening? And
this is actually a man in his 50s, so relatively young, right? I mean, I'm in my 50s. I would like to think it would be confusing or a lot more than a little bit alarming. And I don't know that we always, or that we would connect, I can't find my way home with liver disease.
Well, that's the thing of it. We were given the diagnosis of hepatic encephalopathy, and eventually overt hepatic encephalopathy, which means overt, it's not hidden. Hepatic, it comes from your liver. Encephalopathy, it's affecting your brain.
Okay.
We have no idea that a liver disease could affect your personality, your comportment, how you walk, how you talk, how you remember. We didn't know it could affect your brain. So it was devastating to us because it's something that had been happening right in front of our eyes, and we didn't know to look for it, so we hadn't noticed, and we weren't able to have been good advocates for him or good caregivers, and it just broke our hearts. And it was once he got a diagnosis, he was very far along, so there weren't a lot of treatment options, and there wasn't a lot we could do.
So there are a couple of things there. Number one, this was a number of years ago, so you were quite young, so the treatment options were probably very different from what they are now. But how did this affect you as a young woman taking care of your dad?
It was heartbreaking, honestly, because, I thought my dad hung the moon.
Right.
He really was my North Star. And as a kid, you think your parents are always going to be there. And
Right.
I was terrified of losing him and guilt-stricken that I hadn't been the daughter that I wanted to be to him, that I had let this happen on my watch kind of thing. And we kept we stayed in our shame about it. There's such a stigma around liver disease. More and more, less so, because we are having these conversations, and that is what gives me so much hope and light and joy. So thank you again for that. And because liver disease affects so many people.
Right.
But we didn't think about that. We just went home and were ashamed and waited it out, really. And I never want anybody to ever feel like that again.
I think we have so many more open conversations about medical issues, whether they are physical or mental health related now. So it gives me so much hope that you have taken an experience that happened to you in your teenage years and said, I'm going to allow this experience to inform the work that I do now. So at what point did you say, I need to be an advocate for this, and how can I best help?
Well, there were many, many, many decades where I continued to just be ashamed of it all and to push it away and to lock it down and really not look at it and not go through the guilt or the healing. And I'm so lucky because when I got to begin working with Salix Pharmaceuticals about getting the word out, I really, at first it was terrifying to tell my story. Just out of so much weight that I carried with me around it. And also because I really felt very othered and alone and ashamed. But I'm going to tell you what, Danielle.
Tell me.
I cannot believe, first of all, how healing it was for me to talk about it, to face it, to examine it, to put some light in that corner of my heart. But then to find the community, and there is a thriving community now around this disease process, and one that those of us who are in it now just want to keep growing, because there are still those of us who are out there feeling alone and ashamed, and that is a wasted moment. And we have, just this one life to live, and we don't need to waste our moments. We need to come together, support each other, and walk through everything that we're going to face, because we're all going to face something, but we're so much stronger together, and we can, once we find our community. So it's meant everything to me. I'm really lucky because I get to do what I love for a living, and lots of people talk to me about acting and projects and all different things that I've gotten to do in that regard. But when I started talking about liver disease, specifically hepatic encephalopathy, I hear people come up on the street and talk to me about that now, and just the relief of it not living in the shadows. And that just means the world to me. It heals the 15-year-old inside of me, but it heals the 5-year-old in front of you too.
See, I love that. See, there was a piece of what you said there that gave me physical chills, because I think it is universal in its healing, in that this is why I do the podcast, right? I want people to be able to find hope in other people's strength and the community that they seek out, in recognizing that they aren't alone in whatever it is they're experiencing. And you mentioned your dad's alcoholism. Anyone who listens to the podcast knows that I'm 6 years sober, and that sobriety journey was part of, while this is not a sobriety or recovery podcast, part of that informed my journey in wanting to speak to people and say, look, you're not alone. We can transform tragedy and difficult moments into something that is more triumphant. And that's a large piece of what you're doing. I know that in addition to the liver disease piece of your heart work, there is a caregiver portion to what you're doing. What do you want caregivers to know about the heart work and what they're going? Because I know that on that side, sometimes we feel incredibly isolated when we move into a space where we're taking care of someone, and we can feel quite alone there.
Well, I was going to say it's just as important for caregivers to have community as well, and their own community. I think about it, and like what you're talking about in terms of like AA and Al-Anon, right? There's different roads, but equal need. And as a caregiver, you must stay vigilant, which is an exhausting state to live in, right? Because you need to be aware and watching and responsive and, educating yourself and making sure your loved one has what they need. And that it is a state of hypervigilance, which can take a big toll on mental, physical condition of the human body and spirit. So it's of paramount importance that you remember that you matter too. And that the care you're giving your loved one needs to also come towards yourself. You can't, if you deplete the tank of fuel, the car won't run. You have to keep filling up your own tank. And that's not selfish. It's absolutely a survival mechanism. You have to, if it's meditation or if it's a bath or, if it's some sleep, it has to happen somehow. And often that can only come with the help of other people. And that's the hardest thing for caregivers sometimes, to ask for help for themselves, because they just don't want to bother anybody. And there's so much going on. And it really is vital. And I will say to anybody who's listening, who knows, and we all do, somebody who's going through something, offer your help. Cook them a lasagna so they don't have to make dinner for their family that night, or offer to watch the kids for a minute so they can take a nap, or just zone out on Instagram or something. Just have a second of peace to themselves. Like it's, this is a community, this world we live in. Nobody gets through this life by themselves. So we have to ask for what we need, but we also have to be watching for how we can help. We just engaging will just give a lot of joy in both directions. Really, it's vital to receive and to be able to receive, and that is a hard lesson to learn.
Absolutely.
Also, such a joy to be able to give and lighten somebody else's load when you can.
I know that so many of us, I like to give. I know that it's harder for me to ask for help.
Sure.
What would you say to somebody who is in that space where they are pouring out, but don't quite know how to ask for the help they may need? What's the key to doing that? Because so many people who are caregivers don't know how to ask for that key piece.
Well, the most important thing is not to let it get to the point where you're asking by screaming. When you're well past when you needed help and you're just like spent and so frustrated and just broken down, like don't let it get to that point. Like love yourself enough to even if you have to act as if you're a person who's good at asking for help. Just pretend, put it on like a lab coat and try it out. They always say the best way to make a friend is to ask a favor. And that's still to this day, such a hard concept for me as a human.
I agree.
But I tell myself in a very intentional and cerebral way, I try to remind myself of that every now and again. And I'll tell you what, it really is true. I know I'm happy when people ask me for help. And I'm old enough now that I can set boundaries if it's not possible to say yes.
Right.
Return when it's possible, always keep people in mind and be aware. So keep yourself in the equation as well. But yeah, act as if. Don't let it get to the point of extreme burnout and duress before you reach a hand out across, the ocean of need to say, please see me, please help me.
What has changed over the years in terms of HE with what your dad's experience was versus what episodes look like now? And what should people know? I mean, you mentioned the shame piece and the Liver disease was this thing we didn't talk about. What do you want people to know now?
Oh my goodness. Well, that's the other great part of this all is so much has changed since my family went through this. And the disease has, endures as it is. It is persistent. It comes and is episodic, but the treatment options, oh my goodness, like so much has changed and doctors know more about it now. There is a huge community of people who are living with it and people who are caring for the ones they love going through that. And there's so much information. So the first thing to know is that you're not alone. And the next thing to know is there's so much information out there. I can support you in going to Xifaxan.com. There's a caregivers corner that you can have all the, like getting ready to see your doctor, like a list of questions so you don't forget. Because those are high stress moments. And you get back in the car and you think, oh, I should have asked.
Right.
There you have a list and it's ready. Or, just finding different communities, maybe one in real life near you or one online that you can get to any hour of the day whenever you need. But yeah, that is the most wonderful thing is that so much has changed. There's so much light. There's so much support. There's so much to know. There's so many treatment options, and that they're really wonderful ways to manage this disease, to live with this disease, to treat this disease. And for that reason, I give great thanks every moment of every day.
What piece of this has been the most healing for 15-year-old Bellamy to get to the point where you are now, where it actually feels as though you are giving in a way that you hope nobody goes through what you went through at the time?
That's such a beautiful question, Danielle. I will say that that's, for me, the greatest gift beyond getting the message out itself. The greatest personal gift is putting down the weight of shame. So for everyone who's listening, whatever you're afraid to show the world loves you anyway. And probably most of the world has been through that too. And just getting to a point where I can talk about things that used to really, really make me hide has given me such a new lease on life and such a freedom of expression in my own self. Because you know when you're always carrying something that you're hiding, you're always aware of who you are, what you're saying, what you're revealing. Don't look too close. Don't mention that. And once you're free of those blinders and parameters, it is a much more authentic, wonderful way to be.
I was going to say there's a lack of personal freedom there when you are carrying something that is so heavy. And when you're able to put that down in whatever form that is, whether it's doing the work yourself or finding community, but really connecting with other people, there is, I saw you and I get to see each other. And so some people listen to the podcast and some people watch it, but it's having that ability to take a deep breath and really feel the air in your lungs in a different way. And I can see that in you, which is really beautiful.
Wow. I see it in you too. So thank heavens for the journey. Thank heavens for a life that gives us time to experience things, learn from things, and grow. And also the time to reflect and learn. I really do stay so grateful. But it's also conversations like this that make all the difference. I listen to things and I'm so moved and freed by people sharing their truth. And these conversations are part of it. So thank you, Danielle.
Thank you, as am I. Are there any other heart projects you're working on or anything else that you're really excited about right now that you'd like to share?
Oh gosh, one of my best friends and I wrote a YA sci-fi novel, which sounds like a crazy thing, but we had so much fun doing it, and I'm very, very proud of it. It's first in a trilogy. It's called The Ethereum Code.
I love it.
That was super fun. I'm back and forth doing a TV show called Brilliant Minds. folks can listen. I did a podcast for the humanitarian organization CARE called She Leads CARE.
I was listening to it, and right up my alley. Talking to women around the world, doing amazing things. And, I found the podcast and I was listening to different episodes, and that's beautiful heart work. I mean, storytelling is at my core. So listening to the work that you're doing, and you're in so many different arenas, and I love that. But what's beautiful is seeing how you are equally lit up by each of the pieces that you have pulled into your life.
Well, I do feel to feel connected with people is my greatest joy. And I feel like storytelling is the method of that, like listening to people's stories, sharing my story as I'm able to share it more authentically. It's much more resonant when it happens. But yeah, they all light me up because it feels like all of a piece. It's connection and mutual support. And I really do feel like in this life, if we can show up for each other, really see each other and listen to each other, it's just a joy, and B, I feel the only way we'll get where we all want to go. So I want to wind up in a better world that loves each other and lifts each other up. And moments like this are part of that.
Well, I have long been a fan of yours, and I am honored and delighted that you were able to take time with me today. Is there anything I didn't ask you about that you wanted to share?
Oh, no, goodness. This has been wonderful. I really am so grateful to get to talk about this with you. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bellamy Young. You are wonderful. Thank you so much for spending time with me. And friends here on Hope Comes to Visit, thank you for spending time with both Bellamy and I am confident you found some inspiration and some light that you can take with you and share with the people that you love. And until next time, please take good care of you, and I will see you again next time. Naturally, it's important to thank the people who support and sponsor the podcast. This episode is supported by Chris Dully, a trusted criminal defense attorney and friend of mine here in St. Louis, who believes in second chances and solid representation. Whether you're facing a DWI, felony, or traffic issue, Chris handles your case personally, with clarity, compassion, and over 15 years of experience. When things feel uncertain, it helps to have someone steady in your corner. Call 314-384-4000 or 314-DUI-HELP, or you can visit dullylawfirm.com to schedule your free consultation.